meat. We're getting back into it, guys, and we're going to kick it off with
Hellraiser.
one of my favorite Clive Barker films of all time, if not my favorite Clive Barker film. Of course, Pinhead is a badass. Love that character. He's a bitch on Dead by Daylight, but I overall really love him. So we're not going to waste any time. Hit the like button if you want to see more Dead Meat reactions. I mean, seriously, hit that like button. Make sure that's the first thing you do is go down below, get that thumbs up, and just say, hey, I like this kind of content. Hit that thumbs up. And yeah, that helps out a lot, guys. It helps with the algorithm and everything like that. So I appreciate it. And let's go ahead and dive into the video. Let's get it started. And I want to, yeah, watch this thing.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at Hellraiser, a British film by Clive Barker released in 1987. Though its iconic demonic character is often grouped alongside other horror legends, Hellraiser is a unique and interesting cinematic experience. By the mid to late 80s, slashers had run their course, and humor was becoming more prominent in the genre. Perhaps thanks to Fred Krueger, horror films were taking themselves less seriously, and there was a wave of popular horror comedies, some of them sequels to previously serious horror fare. Hellraiser looked at that levity and said, hell no.
Absolutely.
It has no lightheartedness, no comedic lifelines for a squeamish viewer to hold on to. Hellraiser is a domestic drama filled with eroticism and torture, exploring how pain and pleasure can mix interchangeably. These carnal experiences are delivered by the cenobites, the mutilated beings decked out in BDSM gear who hail from another dimension that's equivalent to hell. The cenobites would return for the rest of the Hellraiser franchise, which currently stands at 10 films. But don't mistake this series as something akin to Friday or Halloween. Unlike those, Hellraiser quickly wound up in direct-to-video territory, and its later sequels began as unrelated scripts with the cenobites forced in later. They're not good. That's why I'll only be looking at the first 4 Hellraisers this month. I'll maybe cover the others in the future if there's enough interest, but for now we'll look at the ones released theatrically and with Clive Barker's involvement. For many people, Clive Barker is best known for Hellraiser, but he was 34 when he made the movie and already an award-winning author, as well as an illustrator, playwright, and scriptwriter.
He is a creative genius. When we first met him, he would be sitting there thinking of one book, talking about another, and drawing something else at the same time.
His work in horror and fantasy, which earned him high praise from Stephen King, often intertwines with sexuality and sadomasochism. After being disappointed by early adaptations of his work, Barker worked with first-time producer Chris Figg and made Hellraiser his directorial debut, based on his own 1986 novella, The Hellbound Heart. His inexperienced directing is evident in the movie.
He did a great job, man. I actually didn't even know that was his directorial debut. He did a phenomenal job. Hellraiser, of course, is my personal favorite Clive Barker movie. The first time I watched it, I thought it was pretty good. It was okay. I liked it. And then the second time around, I really found myself loving it. And I actually do think, and I've gone back and forth between these two Clive Barker films, Hellraiser and Nightbreed. And I think I prefer Hellraiser just a bit more than Nightbreed. Nightbreed's a good movie. Nightbreed's really cool. You know, I really like a lot of the aspects of that movie. It's just Hellraiser, it just has more rewatch value to it.
Character behavior and shots that are unclear in their meaning. Those flaws don't really matter to me because I'm too busy enjoying the movie's strengths. Barker approached Hellraiser more like an art film than a mainstream horror movie, with its terrors derived from dangers just outside.
I would love to see A24 get a hold of a remake. Like, if they were to remake the Hellraiser series, I think the newest one was actually a sequel to the Hellraiser movies. I would love to see a remake done by A24. I think they would do a phenomenal job.
Our realm of understanding. Christopher Young's haunting epic score matches the lofty presentation of exquisite suffering. The suffering is shown in graphic detail with some of the best practical makeup effects of any horror film. Between all the explicit violence and the sexy sex scenes, I'm gonna have to leave some stuff out of this public version, even though I've got a sponsor. I don't want YouTube shutting this shit down. I will be able to get away with a little more than usual, though. Are there more kills to count when they're mixed with unimaginable pleasure? Let's find out and get to them. The movie begins with filthy fingernails, and that dirt digger's buying a box. Frank Cotton takes the puzzle box back to the candlelit attic in his house. There, glistening and perfectly stubbled, he completes the box's puzzle and unleashes hell. Hooks fly out and Frank Cotton screams. The next time we see him, it's in pieces all over his attic, which has become a jangly-dangly chain room. Looks like if you die by a puzzle, you become a puzzle yourself. Beings in black robes approach, and one of them picks up the box. It's repuzzled and the attic is cleared, as though nothing ever whatever happened here. Sometime later, Frank's brother Larry comes to the house with his second wife Julia. Frank's been missing, so Larry's moving back into their family home, although he may want to hire a cleaner since Frank has let it get gross and maggoty. Damn, Frank, did you really put your face on that pillow, man? Larry and Julia have a strange marriage, and she's not excited to be moving here from Brooklyn. But that changes after they find Frank's old belongings, especially some homemade Polaroid porn that gets Julia pretty excited. If there are more of these around the house, she's down to call it home.
Why not?
Moving day comes, and one of the movers fucks Julia right in front of Larry. But Larry might be into cucking, seeing as his response is to go get them beer.
Why don't I get it? I got nothing better to do.
I know he was meant to be pissed there, but it almost seemed like he and Julia noticed that mover from across the bar and really dug his vibe. Larry's daughter Kirsty Cotton, played by a 20-year-old Ashley Lawrence in her first film, has also just moved to town.
One of the weirdest aspects of the movie was their relationship. The father and his wife. His brother, of all people, she's finding way more attractive and wanting to fuck. And he's standing right there. He's actually a good guy at heart. And his brother was a piece of shit human being, but, you know, a lot of women just lean towards those big pieces of shit.
She's from his first marriage and has gotten her own place because she doesn't get along with her stepmother, Julia.
That your daughter?
Uh-huh.
Got her mother's looks.
My mother's dead.
Oh.
Julia couldn't care less about Kirsty. She's too busy thirsting over memories of—
Such a fucked up thing to say. Try to, like, makes a compliment and tries to hit on his wife, and then then goes immediately towards his daughter. What?
Frank. She remembers the time he first made contact with her, right around when she and Larry got married. Frank showed up and was like, "I'm all wet, can I come in?" And since Julia's apparently into drunk guys with switchblades, she put up with Frank's chin fetish and had an affair with her husband's brother. Their very erotic sex scene is intercut with Larry cutting his hand open on a nail. He wilts as he goes up to the attic to show—
One of the funniest moments in the Hellraiser movie. I laugh every time. Walking up to the camera, holding his hand. I'm gonna pass out. Oh, I swear to God, I'm gonna pass out.
Julia, and when his blood falls onto the floorboards, they slurp it up nice and good in a special effect done with reverse photography. It's just enough blood to kickstart Frank's resurrection. As Julia and the Cottons head to the hospital, the corpse of Frank Cotton buckles and bubbles back to life. These special effects are phenomenal, on a level with Rob Bottin's work in The Thing. In fact, this sequence of Frank reconstituting is probably one of my top practical effects scenes of all time.
It's
Frank's
pretty good.
resurrection was originally a dusty skeleton coming out of a wall, owing to Hellraiser's modest budget of just under $1 million. Roger Corman's New World Pictures financed the movie, and it was New World's Tony Randall who gave them extra cash to create this sequence long after the rest of production had wrapped. Hellraiser's makeup team built wax organs and skin on top.
I'm sorry, just to see a skeleton like come out of the closet would have been so boring. This was neat, and it fits the tone of the film more too.
Of animatronics. Then they melted all of it down and played the footage in reverse. As an extra detail, they created veins out of thread that they pulled out as the wax was melting. When played in reverse, it makes the veins appear as though they're growing into the body. I love this goopy nastiness, and Christopher Young's orchestral score completes its epic feeling.
It's pretty great.
Young had already scored Nightmare on Elm Street 2 by this point, and he'd go on to be an all-star horror composer, making music for Tales from the Hood, Urban Legend, The Grudge, and Sinister. Julia keeps fantasizing about Frank and winds up in the attic, even though there's nothing to see up there. Oh, except for this creepy crawling monster man. It's Frank, Julia, in the flesh, kind of, but he doesn't want you to look at him.
Don't look at me.
Frank tells Julia that he needs her help, and lucky for him, this chick's the world's #1 Frank fan. He says that Larry's drops of blood brought him back to life, so more blood will make him whole again.
You have to heal me.
Julia considers his proposal, and also considers how good he looks with skin. Because of that, she agrees to be Frank's personal skin supplier. Human Frank was played by Sean Chapman, a native of London where Hellraiser was filmed. It was written to take place there as well, but to make it more appealing to American audience members, New World insisted on making the setting more ambiguous. Despite the very English-looking locations, Hellraiser supposedly takes place on the East Coast in the US. The Cotton brothers had always been written as American characters, and Sean Chapman played Frank with an American accent. But Chapman was one of several actors whose lines were overdubbed, which he was never told about, giving us a sort of David Prowse situation.
Really?
Unnecessarily crass.
Well, can I come in or not?
it has no tone or colour in it at all. It's just a kind of, lay on American heavy thing.
The next day, Julia goes to a place Kevin
Interesting.
Bateman would frequent. A dude hits on her, she promptly takes him home, and when she starts to waver in her plans, he kind of seals his own fate.
You're gonna change your fucking mind, are you? I'm sorry.
Let's go upstairs.
She lures him up to the attic, the least sexy place in this remarkably unsexy house, but that doesn't stop the dude from stripping down to his tighty-whities. When she gets an opportunity, Julia takes a hammer and strikes the man multiple times. She makes sure she finishes the job she set out to do. All that for a guy who doesn't even want to be looked at.
Don't look at me.
But come on, Frank Monster, I want to watch.
So weird.
We do get a shot of the messy aftermath, but no more expensive transformation shots. The next time we see Frank, he's already reached a new stage.
Every drop of blood you spill puts more flesh on my bones.
Oh, by the way, Frank, what's your favorite offbeat horror movie starring Elijah Wood?
Come to daddy.
Oh hey, me too! Frank says he needs a couple more bodies to be complete. It's the only way he'll escape the beings who are after him.
It's so good. The fucking practical effects on this guy are so good.
It's only a matter of time before they find I've slipped them.
Then he and Julia can be together forever, and Julia finds that plan finger-licking good. While Frank the Human was played by Sean Chapman, Frank the Monster was played by Oliver Smith, except for when he's crawling around. For those shots, Frank was played by some kid. Oliver Smith was skinny enough to where the prosthetics meant to be his flesh and bones.
Sticking something on the top of someone but making it look like and feel like that they've taken something away is a normal process in makeup, but this is amplified by 10.
To design the look of this skin person suit, Clive Barker and lead makeup artist Bob Keane went to an autopsy and watched a doctor skin an actual corpse.
Like I said, I didn't see much of it because I was going, but Clive was kind of disappointed with the end result of the real thing. Exact words were, it looks like bacon's been stuck over someone.
Smith, who worked more days on set was life cast.
No kidding, dude. Okay. That is oddly scary and hilarious at the same time. He was disappointed. He wanted something more, I guess, fleshy looking, I suppose?
To create the thin prosthetics he'd have to wear. Below his neck, it was a reusable bodysuit covered in KY jelly, but he couldn't handle the head casting process to make a reusable mask.
I couldn't take all that. It sort of straws up the nostrils and trying to breathe through this plaster cast, so I'm afraid I blew that.
Because of that, his face prosthetics had to be applied in pieces and replaced every day. This 6-hour process was done by Cliff Wallace, who went on to co-create and design the Birch from Crypt TV. Cool. Kirsty Cotton's been trying to live her life and date this super bland
I have yet to watch that.
But their romance keeps getting interrupted.
Actually, I'm gonna watch that after this video.
By weird shit. First, there's a beardo who stares at her on the street and comes into the pet store she works at just to eat her bugs.
Give those back.
You really want those back, Kirst? And on top of that, she's having bloody nightmares of her dad in danger. Careful, Kirsty. That kind of trauma might affect your new relationship.
Daddy.
Steve's like, me? Julia goes all in on the Frank Flesh fundraising plan and picks up a second guy who she similarly kills with a hammer to the face. Damn, Julia is just the worst witch of a woman. But she does it for Frankie, who'd best say thank you for all that blood. He has a cigarette that he's excited he can taste again and tells Julia how he got this way. It was through this box.
Don't touch it.
Alright man, cool it with the rules. He calls the box a door to heaven or hell and says he went to knock in because he was bored with earthly delights. Cause yeah dude, no greater pleasure than how you were living, huh? When he solved the box, the cenobites showed up and gave him what he asked for.
Pain and pleasure. Indivisible.
This is our first extended look at the Cenobites, and we're more than halfway through the movie. It's about the same time it takes Candyman to show up in his film, which was based on The Forbidden, a story written by Clive Barker. The original 4 Cenobites are Chatterer.
So Candyman was written by Clive Barker? I feel like I know that.
Butterball, the female Cenobite who isn't given a name, and lead Cenobite, also not given a name in this first film. He'd quickly become known as Pinhead, of course, a nickname given to him by the makeup effects crew. Clive Barker always bristled at that and prefers the moniker Hell Priest. Anyway, this leather gang fucked Frank shit up, so he makes Julia swear to help him hide away from them forever. The Cenobites were never intended to be the focal point of the film, but with their striking makeup design, applied by the team at Image Animation, and their suggestive leather attire, done by costume designer Jane Wildgoose, it's not hard to see why they became fan favorites. These extra-dimensional demons, who are neither good nor evil, were designed by Clive Barker and Bob Keane. Chatterer, the so-called family dog, and Butterball, the surgeon of the group, were played by Nicholas Vince and Simon Bamford, who had already been drama school friends for years. Neither character was fun to play, since their makeup left them blind, but they both returned for the sequel the following year. The same cannot be said for Grace Kirby, the female.
How could you not, man? If you're in a franchise like that, the first thing you want to do is just be a part of that franchise. I mean, it's something that you'll be able to talk about for the rest of your life. I was on that Hellraiser movie, and the Hellraiser movie, yeah, the makeup was a fucking bitch. But dude, I mean, imagine giving autographs to people who love watching you in these movies. I mean, it's just, it's worth it. At the end of the day, I have no doubt in my mind, all of it is so worth it. The fact that you can't see under the makeup, the fact that it's hard to breathe, but at the end of the day, man, you deliver a really creepy performance. You gotta be proud of that shit, and I'm hoping they're proud of it.
Cenobite, who was uncomfortable with the makeup process and how it made her look. And then there's Pinhead. The regal lead Cenobite was played by Doug Bradley, who had acted in plays that Barker wrote after the two of them met in high school. We've seen Bradley on the kill count in the abysmal Wrong Turn 5, but Pinhead will always be the actor's legacy. His unforgettable appearance, head divided into square inches by nails, was applied by Jeff Portas in a process that took 6 hours. During it, Bradley would zone out in a quote mystic experience that helped him get into character. He quickly learned that Barker wanted a subtle and authoritative performance.
In the first day of filming, he kept giving me one note, which was do less. Just take it down, do less, take it down.
I absolutely love Pinhead and the way he wields the power of hell in different.
Yeah, I don't think to play Pinhead you don't need to be over the top. You can be very subtle, yet very effective and demanding. And I think that's what Doug Bradley did. He was very demanding in the way he spoke, but he was never like over the top, like you would think a demon would be. Like laughing and shit, and it's a cool way to look at it. It's a cool way to take it.
It's a testament to both the makeup crew and Doug Bradley as an actor.
If the wrong actor had been wearing this, Pinhead would never be the success that it is.
Larry has dinner with his daughter and asks her to try to help Julia since she's been acting weird lately. Kirsty does a courtesy check right as Julia's bringing home another victim. It's not what it looks like, Kirsty. No, really, it's actually not. When the third victim is attacked by Julia and her monster, we see how Frank consumes these guys by jamming his fingers into their necks. Gross. Kirsty comes inside and watches as this dude stumbles out of the attic begging for help. She offers a hand, but Frank comes out and finishes the kill, draining away the last of this guy's life force. Frank tells Kirsty who he is, her skeezy Uncle Frank.
Come to Daddy.
Get the fuck off of me!
He corners her in the attic and makes advances on his niece, telling her that she's in for a world of pain.
That's what makes the pleasure so sweet.
Kirsty's not really an S&M type gal though, so she goes for a weapon and finds the box that Frank is obviously attached to.
Give it to me.
You want it?
Whoa, with that tone, maybe Kirsty's kink is humiliation. She throws it through the window, which gives her the chance to flee. On her way out, she grabs the box, but I guess she runs a bit too hard down the sidewalk there. This girl passes out in front of a bunch of people and wakes up in the hospital. The doctor says she needs to rest. Here's your puzzle box, ma'am. Maybe it'll help you relax. The Lament configuration, as the box is known, was designed by the late Simon Says, who included several subtle abstract symbols on it that work as warnings and instructions to its puzzlers. Here, he points out a face that has a spike going through it. Various boxes were made, each specialized to do a different trick. All of them took a long time to paint and varnish, and their etchings were made of delicate brass. To save himself hours of work making replacements,
holy shit,
Sace would lie on the floor to catch them whenever they were dropped or thrown. Kirsty takes on the puzzle box challenge.
Holy shit.
And I've gotta say, thing can't be that difficult if everyone's doing it in a matter of minutes. When she solves it, a hospital wall opens up, leading to a long hallway of forced perspective. The depth becomes real, and Kirsty goes for a walk until she finds herself blocked by a hellspawn. It's the engineer, as it's known, which I've always found dumb. You telling me this wormy thing has an engineering degree? Also, I don't love its effects, especially the face close-ups. This thing looks like it came from a theme park. I mean, you can literally see the cart pushing it sometimes. The engineer was a big old suit worn by makeup artist John Cormican, credited as Little John. Not to be confused with Lil Jon, or Little John. Cormican had his arms in the engineer's feet, his head in its tail, and his...
Yeah, every time that thing showed up, it made you really feel like you were watching a movie. If I had to be honest, it really is like, there it is. The effects that really were unnecessary. I really feel like they did not need to add him in the movie. It would have changed. It wouldn't have changed anything, in my personal opinion, if he was not in the movie. The engineer, as they put it. He's just pointless to me, and he didn't look great. He looks fine, you know, for like a theme park character or something like that, like at a haunted house or something, but for a movie, not really.
Its feet working its arms. Its eyes were moved around by radio control. Took 8 people to operate the engineer, and I'm assuming that includes the people wheeling it down the hall. Kirsty outrun.
You know what it looks like? It looks like one of those, like a creature Freddy Krueger would turn into to like chase after his victims and stuff. That's what it looks like to me.
Runs the guys pushing the engineer's cart and gets back to her hospital room where the wall seals shut behind her. Further futzing with the box causes more weird shit to happen. Like, blood's not supposed to work that way, and can we please keep it in the bag? Come on! These effects portend the reappearance of Pinhead's gash, and I guess that's what his crew is called, his gash. I didn't know that until now, and I
didn't know that.
Pinhead does all the gabbing for his gash and tells Kirsty who the fuck they are.
Explorers in the further regions of experience, demons to some, angels to others.
When the box is solved, they're summoned, so now Kirsty's gotta go with them. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Oh, no tears, please.
Waste of good suffering.
It's a waste of good suffering.
Pinhead's dialogue is straight fire, yo. Kirsty realizes her Uncle Frank has also dealt with these demons, so she makes them a deal. If they let her go, she'll bring them the man who escaped. Pinhead and female cenobites say Kirsty's maybe got a deal, but she best not try to trick them, or else
we'll tear your soul apart.
And the crowd goes wild! Now that Kirsty's in the know, Frank and Julia need to flee, but he's still epidermally challenged and needs a bit more protein. Oh hey Larry, we were just talking about you, brah. Next time we see Larry, he's cracking his knuckles, and Julia seems super into it, so you know something's off. Kirsty gets back to the house so she can make sure her dad is okay. Well, here he is, Kirsty. Looks totally fine, except for the bleeding hairline. Ew, don't hug him again, Kirsty. How do you not notice how gross he looks? Larry's gross because he's not Larry anymore, and the change is perfectly portrayed by actor Andrew Robinson.
Do you hurt your baby?
Barker really got every penny's worth casting him. Robinson's versatility is further exemplified by how different his character is in Child's Play 3. Now he's playing Frank Cotton because Larry Cotton is dead. His body in the attic has been stripped of its skin to fool the cenobites into thinking it's Frank's. Alright Frank, you've got the look down. Now let's see how much you sound like Larry.
Come to daddy.
Yeah, might want to get more into character. Kirsty realizes what's happening and scratches off some of Frank's face flesh. Julia holds the girl as Frank comes at her with his knife, but ends up stabbing Julia instead. She begs him to stop, but he doesn't. Food is food.
It's nothing personal, baby.
Yeah, that was a bad horse to hitch your wagon to, Jules. Kirsty hides from Frank in a storage room. It should work, as long as—
Such a shame, man, to throw your life away for an asshole. Of course he was just using you. What were you expecting? First off, if he says he came back from hell, you avoid him at all costs. You don't want to go where he's going.
Jesus doesn't leap out at her. Ah, damn it. Jesus leapt. Eventually, Frank forces Kirsty into the attic, where she trips over her dead dad. Womp womp. Wow, this dude killed your father, Kirsty. What do you think about him?
Bastard!
You want to try that again?
Bastard!
Much better, but still no pieces.
Bastard!
This bastard admits to Kirsty that he's dear old Uncle Frank, and the confession brings out the parole officers. Pinhead and his gash, are here to take Frank back to their world. You know, the one with all the chains and torture pillars. You're gonna like it there too, Frank. They capture him with hooks that go deep into his flesh, spreading out his limbs and rendering skin all over the place. Frank's turned into a human jerky factory, leaving him with one final thing left to say.
Jesus wept.
Then the dude blows up. Hell of a kill for Uncle Frank. Jesus wept is probably this movie's most famous non-Pinhead line, and it wasn't even written by Clive Barker. He originally had scripted a simple fuck you, but actor Andrew Robinson came up with the now iconic line.
And Clive jumped on it without a question.
The Cenobites have gotten Frank back, but that—
It's unsettling, for sure. And like, if that's the line you're gonna go out on because you know you're going to hell, that is a creepy and unsettling thing to say. Jesus wept. Starts laughing. What a creepy guy.
Doesn't mean they don't want Kirsty too.
Creepy.
We have such sights to show you.
I love the bleeding wall when female Cenobite's chasing her. Kirsty finds the lament configuration in the hands of Julia's corpse, though I'm not sure how she got to the mattress when she died in the stairwell. Kirsty wrestles the box away and de-solves the puzzle, which
Well, she was chained to it. I'm assuming the cenobites probably moved her there.
Guess works like the reverse Uno card.
She was a shitty person,
using it to
so.
zap Pinhead out of existence.
Go to hell!
As Steve gets to the house so he can randomly help out, Kirsty turns the cube to the other cenobites and flashes them away one by one. I'm not counting these as kills because I think she's just transporting them back to their dimension. Butterball doesn't get zapped. Instead, he's crushed with debris. But he shows up in the sequel too, so he's fine. Don't worry about him. What's not fine is that goddamn Enja-freaking-Near who shows up for one final scare. Fuck off, worm! Kirsty sends another energy beam into its stupid worm face and zaps it away. Kirsty and Steve then leave the house and head to the city's, random burn pit? She tosses the cube into a fire, but then that vagrant dude shows up. Remember him? He ate crickets. And now that bug muncher's reaching into the fire. He takes the cube out of it, and before Kirsty's eyes, transforms into a giant flying skeleton beast. What the fuck? This dragon skeleton was a last-minute idea from Clive Barker, and it fell on Bob Keane to put it together in 4 days.
Wouldn't it be awesome if this, bony dragon rise up out of the flames? And I remember thinking, yeah, but we're shooting.
It was made using a South American tapir skull with ibex horns in its eye sockets and a couple of plastic skeleton parts making up the body. The bony beast flies away from them Lost Boys style as the shots matted into the cube. The movie ends with a vendor selling it to a new unsuspecting puzzler.
What's your pleasure, sir?
How many kills were given to us by Pinhead and his gash? Let's find out and get to the numbers. Wait, what is that?
That was a pretty good effect you just did right there. It looked exactly like the movie.
I counted 7 kills in Hellraiser, with Frank Cotton dying twice. The only
Frank Cotton's death at the end of the movie is the best kill in the entire film, hands down.
female victim
Hands
was Julia,
down.
so they must enjoy blueberries in hell. And with a runtime of 93 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 13.29 minutes.
It's gotta go
the
to-
golden chainsaw for coolest kill to Frank Cotton's second death. This is the film's ultimate kill, and it lives up to the
Without
anticipation.
question.
Pinhead talked a big game the whole movie, and he was able to back it up. Doll Machete for lamest kill will go to Frank and Julia's second victim. Dude looks kinda goofy while he's getting killed there. And that's it. Hellraiser came out in 1987 and made such a splash, New World Pictures immediately requested a sequel. It'd be released about 15 months later, and I'll look at it next week. Until then, I'm James A. Janice.
This has been the Kill Count.